Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Tuesday, May 24th, 2022. And our top story today, how a Minecraft server for autistic kids became the best place on the internet. Well, joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Colette Bennett is a journalist with TheStreet.com. Colette, great to see you again. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm glad we could chat a bit today.
Are we going to have any cat visitors today? No?
Well, I closed the door, so maybe not, but perhaps next time.
All right. Well, we'll have to do a meet and greet between our two sets of cats. All right. Let's talk about this. I think this is a great feel-good story. I think you do as well. It's about Minecraft and how autistic kids now have a safe place to play Minecraft. But before we get into that, for those that may not know, because you cover a lot of gaming, what is the great game of Minecraft? What is it?
I think of Minecraft as kind of like a digital sandbox, basically. But for those who have never heard of it or seen it, it is a blocky, not particularly like beautiful looking game that was made by one guy back in 2011. Actually, that's when he launched it. So it's now 11 years old. And it is a game where you can go in and build absolutely anything you want using building pieces like trees and, sand and blocks. And so it's led to this incredible outpouring of creativity. And today, Minecraft is actually used not only for leisure, but also as a teaching tool in some schools, because, parents saw just what a great reaction, how many kids had to Minecraft and how they just wanted to go in there and build things all day. So yeah, there's now like a version of Minecraft that is specifically for use in educational settings. So it's a pretty interesting game. And actually I looked right before we got on today because I was curious how big it currently was. And last year it had 141 million players, and of those, between 2.8 and 3.6 million are on daily as of this year, which is like insane for a game that's 11 years old. So I think it's one of those things that is really it's interesting it's interesting as a social experiment, not just as a game, I think.
You're limited only by your imagination and creativity.
Exactly.
And it seems almost very similar for many out there. It seems very similar to The Sims, kind of building your own city. But this seems like it's like that on steroids. Let's talk about, we're not going to talk directly about autism, but there have been continually growing diagnosis of autism. And it seems as though this world is a really good fit for autistic children. How is that?
Well, I think it is, but just a side note, because I just want to make sure this is couched in the right context. If you read the news at all, surely you've seen many instances of, kids that get bullied online playing video games. Unfortunately, this is just a part of the culture. And I think there are some people in the gaming space that are interested in changing that. So, I do agree with you in that this particular game is a really nice fit for autistic kids. But I think maybe what's even more interesting in this piece is that for them to enjoy Minecraft to the fullest, they really needed a place to play that would allow them to be themselves, to be autistic kids, and to not deal with that kind of sometimes strange and unfortunate, hazing online. So so someone decided to build them a space to play safely, and this server, as it's called, is called Autcraft. And it was founded some years back by a fellow who decided that his autistic child was the one that inspired him to create this server, this place for autistic kids to go. Today, the server is much bigger and he runs it full time. His name is Stuart, and I actually will have to give you a link so people can see his TED Talk. He's done so much different, coverage, news coverage talking about this project. But I was lucky enough to have him on my own gaming podcast last week, and it's called Colette and Matt Have Entered the Chat, and it's on all of the places you hear podcasts. But we found out about Stuart, and we were so fascinated by what he did and what he created, and what really seemed like a labor of love and kindness, that we had him on. And I was really blown away by what I learned about Autcraft. So I'm glad to have an opportunity to talk about it a little this morning, and to know that there's a place online for autistic kids who absolutely adore playing Minecraft to go and enjoy themselves and feel safe.
Yeah, well, number one, I mean, I agree with you completely. And number one, I mean, I just find it, this cyberbullying is really horrific. But the fact that this gentleman actually stepped out, created this world for his child, and then extended it for other people. If I'm a parent of an autistic child, and my child likes things like Minecraft, how do I gain access to this server? So you got to have to walk me through a little bit.
Sure.
I haven't played video games, as you know, since the Atari 2600 or the Nintendo NES. So for our viewers out there that may not be familiar, how do we gain access to Autcraft?
Sure. So there is a website that anybody can go to, and you will definitely have to go through a process of applying. Stuart, the owner, he is very careful about screening who comes in, because he wants it to remain a safe space for the people who are already there. But the website is autcraft.com, and there is contact for people to reach out to him. And basically, it is for autistic kids and also autistic adults, because Minecraft does have a lot of adult players as well. But that would be the first place to kind of get a peek at, what they've currently got set up, and also what they've got coming in the future. And it is a free thing, by the way. It's not like a cost place or anything like that. It's just, a safe space that one guy created to try to make gaming a little safer and better, I guess.
Yeah, I like that. And I want to go back to something you said before about cleaning up gaming. So let's switch a little bit from Autcraft for a second and talk about, social media, technology. It's got a lot of good sides, but the downside is some of this stuff like, you can be in your mother's basement typing in your underwear and say all sorts of nasty things to people and not be held accountable.
Sure.
Take us through maybe some of the things that are going on in terms of cyberbullying, especially in the gaming world. I wasn't even aware of that. I mean, there's one thing about talking smack, like, okay, I blew up your guy. But there's another thing about personal. I mean, how do we eliminate that from this, what is a great world?
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, I think this has been an issue. I mean, obviously not just in gaming, but, there's a bigger picture of it being an issue on the internet in general. A lot of people believe that it's an anonymity thing. You can kind of take your anger out on, someone that you'll never meet in real life. But, I've been in many situations where, I've met an angry commenter in person in some of my past writing. And it's so interesting how often, I'll say, oh, you're this user, and they'll be very quiet, very reserved in person. And if you, say something about their comments, which I have had the opportunity to do, often it's like that person has no connection. So this is probably going to sound like a bit of a stretch, but bear with me. I think that as we continue to improve our infrastructure for mental health and take a lot of the guilt and shame out of reaching out for that, both for women, but especially for men, I think that is something that can help deflate some of that, because the impression I always get when I've come into contact with it, both in gaming and outside of gaming, is that it's like people just need to discharge anger and resentment somewhere. And so I think that's something that as more people find their way to good mental health resources, we may continue to see it less and less.
Yeah. Well,
so, we'll see. But also be kind,
Yeah. I mean, I just don't. Yeah, if you go work out, if you get some aggression or speak to somebody, it just winds up bringing everyone down. It's really toxic. Well, thank you, Colette. I've got to take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about premium subscriptions on the rise. What's this mean for Netflix? I think you're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms? Especially for the smaller businesses. I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you over 50? Would you like to get up to 33% more income in retirement? Then call now for this free book, Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers. This free book reveals little-known secrets about annuity strategies that will help you make the right choices before buying an annuity. Call right now for your free book, and as a bonus, we'll also throw in a free annuity rate report, both absolutely free for calling Annuity General today.
Call 800-504-8194.
Welcome back. We're talking this morning to Colette Bennett. She's a journalist with TheStreet.com. Colette, thanks for sticking with us this morning.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So it's no secret there are a plethora, a myriad, a cornucopia, if you will, of streaming services out there, and especially premium streaming services. Recently, in this past quarter, Netflix seen a bit of a decline in its number of subscribers. We'll get into the reasons why, the who, the how, the why on that. But other premium services done pretty well. HBO Max, Disney, Paramount. I probably left someone off the list. Don't know. It's not a slight. What do you make of all this? Why the decline in Netflix, and why some of these other premium services? Are they just have better content?
Well, I don't think it's a matter of better content at this point, to be quite honest. I think the biggest piece of it is, there's two pieces. First, innovation, which, of course, Netflix was one of the first companies to do that, them and Amazon. And, having been kind of first to the plate, I think that definitely allowed them to get a big gain. But the problem, and I think we see this problem in all types of business models, is that, now we're in a space where everyone has imitated what Netflix did so well. And with the, evolution of time and technology, some of them are doing it better. Netflix, for instance, I think is now kind of at a point where I would even go as far as to say too large in terms of selection. They added a feature, I think, a couple years back that was like a Netflix roulette that would choose something for you to watch. But also memes started to pop up around that time that were I spent 3 hours on Netflix in my queue, because people can't make decisions anymore. It's so big. And so one thing I see other streaming services doing that I find very interesting is limiting how much content they have and really optimizing the content they have, instead of just kind of barfing endless streams of, for instance, one really interesting tidbit to me is that when Squid Game got really big, everyone was like, oh my God, Netflix, it's so fascinating that you found this show and blah, blah, blah. They put hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Korean shows and dramas on Netflix before that actually succeeded. So it was less oh my gosh, it's such a good, choice, and more, it was just, they got lucky. It was a roulette wheel pick, in my opinion. It's still a very good show, but there's many other very good shows. So for instance, if you go on HBO, you can go through all of the movies that HBO has to offer in, I would say maybe 30 minutes of looking through. And they're very careful to curate their selection and move things in and out, which of course everyone does. But, the paralysis of, I only have a few hours to myself on this Monday or Tuesday evening, what should I watch, is not helped by, going on Netflix and being like, there's so many things, I can't make a decision. So I do think that this is like a little piece of the puzzle. Another thing that I've noticed is like Hulu kind of has also like a more pared down, like thing that it's doing with some of the ways it's presenting things. So I think Netflix is gigantic, and I'm sure that they can't see any way to cut down the amount of content and still, retain, because they're losing subscribers so quickly. But yeah, I think they'll need some sort of big change. And they are trying to get into games, which I think is really interesting. They promised they would have up to 50 mobile games by the end of this year, which if you have a Netflix account, you can just go on your phone and download the game and it'll allow you to, because you're a subscriber. But I'm not sure that that's going to be the thing to save them so much as I think that streaming services just need to be aware that there is a point at which people become too overwhelmed to enjoy the amount of content you're pouring into the service.
Paralysis.
So that's my take.
Yeah, paralysis by analysis. And Colette, let me ask you, these are some trying times for Americans, people around the world, in terms of inflation, cost of gas. How much of the decline in Netflix is a result of having to make budget cuts? Maybe that $9.99 or $10.99 or whatever the cost is, it doesn't make sense. And maybe HBO Max comes with my T-Mobile account or my AT&T account. How much do you think that plays into it? Because I get the sense, I just talked about myself and my wife, we cut Netflix because we had a hard time finding stuff. I thought the quality wasn't so great, but what you got to cut, and so you start there. So how much of the decline is based on that?
I think it's a piece of it, but what's interesting is that if you look across streaming services, you're not necessarily seeing similar declines across all of them. Netflix is definitely one of the ones that's getting hit the hardest. But I also think that, I hate to say it this way, but as much as it still serves so many people, they're kind of like, the kid that's been around the block already, whereas people are more likely to be like, oh, there's this new streaming service that I'm really interested in. But like, that's not necessarily going to work for everyone, because we all know what happened to CNN Plus and how quickly that came and went, Yeah. So so that just proves that a big name is not the thing either. So I think that, yes, that's a part of it and kind of helps to give people a little bit more of an excuse to cut it. But, we're seeing the oversaturation, not just in content, but also across streaming, as a whole. There's so many, streaming services to possibly sign up for that, you might hit a point where you're like, well, this makes no sense. I should just go back to cable, like why pay 8 different subscription fees? So actually one thing I'm really expecting to see in the next few years is some sort of pass system come up where it gives you access to multiple things, multiple networks. I'm not sure how exactly that would work, but I think that it's kind of an inevitable step towards what's coming next, because people are going to continue to get more overwhelmed and not, either not keep their subscriptions or not use their subscriptions. So I think we need some sort of solution that's like the modern cable, if that makes sense. So I guess we'll have to stay tuned and see what that could potentially be.
Yeah, this is an area that keeps on developing, a lot of new technology. There is the fatigue that you talk about with Netflix. I just kind of wonder how much of the fatigue is related to going back to work. If people are no longer at home, you can't stream Netflix in the cubicle. Well, maybe you can. I don't know, depending on the boss.
You can, but I think people would rather not.
Yeah,
because they've spent so much time on that already. And you really I just have a hard time finding quality. My wife and I have been using like Tubby, I don't know how to pronounce it. And there's also Amazon just came out with Freevee, which was, I guess, IMDb, and it's got ads. I wonder what, the last 30 to 60 seconds we have left, what about this premium service versus ad-supported services? Who wins out? That's a really interesting question. So, it's hard to say without looking at a comparison of numbers directly, but like, for instance, Netflix moving towards having an ad-supported streaming option, that's something that they really haven't done in the past. But I think that it does mean that you will potentially gain subscribers that you couldn't have gained before because they simply can't afford the full prices. So I think it's a good way to potentially, at least still get your ads served and raise your revenue. But I really don't know if it would be a solution in the long term big enough to help like pull Netflix up from like where it's at right now. So we'll see. I mean, they're obviously going to try it, but I do think that just about every streaming service benefits from having a ad supported option, because for some people that's what fits.
Well, I can tell you, I just watched the old Valley Girl with Nick Cage and Deborah Foreman, and then I found out they made a remake. I tried to watch that. Sorry, nothing will ever replace the original Valley Girl from the 1980s. Colette,
I hear you.
What's that?
I said I hear you.
Yeah, I mean, it was great, and the music was spectacular. Oh, to be in the 80s again. Colette, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. Great stories again this week, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Thanks, Jeff.
That wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to? Drop us a line, and don't forget, for all the latest security news and lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives, check out our latest content, we'll visit our website, and also our streaming partners. We're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRN AM. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
But if you're tired of the same old
Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the first lifestyle and wellness network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.
Are you being audited and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.